Next.
Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Roll call. Justin here. Don here. Owen here. Is Nancy here?
Yes, I'm here.
And then AJ had an excused absence. I'd like to entertain a motion for approval of today's agenda.
I'll move to approve today's agenda. Second.
Justin moved and Don seconded.
Could I request an amendment or a change to the agenda before you approve it?
What would be the change?
The change would be to move to table the event facility update until after the Music from Angel Fire grant application discussion. So we can end the meeting with the event facility update and spend the time needed.
I'll accept the motion to move item D to the end of the agenda.
I'll make that motion to move D to the end and move A up. And I'll second.
Did you get that, Nancy? It was Don who
Yes,
great.
Thank you.
So now we'll go back to approving today's agenda with the amendments. I'll accept the motion.
I'll move to approve today's agenda with amendments. I'll second.
Right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. And we'll move on to the tourism director report.
All right, the first thing I'd like to cover is our ad campaign performance. As you know, that's where we spend a lot of our time, effort, and money. I want to inform you that at next month's meeting, we will have Tim from the media placement company doing the presentation. And I think you remember Tim doing a presentation a year or so ago. He's excellent. He drills down all the numbers. So we'll get a season recap from him on our campaign performance for those first 3 months. But for now, I can cover January and February. January, we saw 34,700 visits to the website with 3,500 booking referrals. So about 10% of the people that were coming to the website were looking for and booking lodging from our website. February traffic went up, 38,000 visits, 4,200 booking referrals, 11% of the visitors were booking lodging, and that was a 21% increase above January. Usually when a new website is launched and new programs are put out there, you'll see a spike in interest at the start and it really gets good momentum and things flatten out. We haven't flattened out yet, so that's great to hear. So total booking referrals from our website were 7,710 on our website. 3,144 of those booking referrals were generated via social media. And that's easy tracking because of the way they put cookies. When you look at something on your browsers, you know, you get ads for it following that. So we're doing that same type of marketing. So far to date, our television ads have aired 2.37 million times. That's on gas pumps, on connected TV, could be on Peacock, NBC, ABC. I've personally seen them here on Peacock a couple of times, even though we're not in the zone that the ads are served up to. We're serving up the ads in our markets, but somehow they do trickle out. Dallas continues to be our leading market. San Antonio has outperformed its size. It's punching above its weight, so to speak. As you know, we saw San Antonio starting to track in January. We moved some money out of Albuquerque and into San Antonio, and it's still performing great. San Antonio is a strong market for us. Another one that's done well for us this year is Midland, Odessa. It's outperforming Lubbock. And we think some of that could be because of lack of snow further south. So our top Facebook post that we had this year so far was, you'll like to hear this, Owen? It was a simple post about visiting Angel Fire and finding lodging, finding a place to stay. So we're building up interest. People are looking at planning on visiting. They're researching where to stay. We're gonna have a great summer. That's all I can say. You'll see in the total plan, the in-depth plan. You've got numbers there. Like I said, Tim will be picking these up at his presentation next week. A couple other markets that popped up in this last month's report. Minneapolis, we had 90 booking referrals out of Minneapolis. It's just bizarre. I can't explain it. We aren't serving up ads there. They aren't getting social media digital ads if they're interested in Angel Fire, but obviously there's some following there. Phoenix is strong. We know that'll be a good market for summer, for couples. Phoenix and Tucson, try to drive some of those people up here in the fall. We're getting some take there now. We can go after that later. Our Facebook, we've gained 4,342 new followers. And Instagram, we gained 322. Instagram always follows behind, but we're up there with 38,000 some followers now on social media. So we've got a significant audience there. I'm looking at trying to find other funding sources as we get into budgeting. And we're looking at right now a $300,000 special events budget. We can easily spend that R&R events with the drone show, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, the other things we want to do. We can easily invest that in events. How do we grow events, and how do we keep funding these other events that come out of the community that want us to participate? Music over Angel Fire, Mayhem on the Mountains, those kind of things. So we're looking at other funding sources, the grants that are out there from the tourism office. There's an event specific grant that Rocky and I are working on now to try to gain some more dollars there. And then we're looking at sponsorships, anywhere we can get some sponsorship dollars to try to help us out in furthering our causes. So those are things that we're working on. I wanted to keep it brief today. So any questions on campaign performance so far?
Nancy?
No, it just sounds good, Greg. I'm excited.
It's going really well, Nancy. I'm very pleasantly surprised in our advertising performance. Our click-through rate is still 165% above other travel destinations. So we're obviously serving up the right messages in the right markets. We're being pretty efficient with our spend, which is nice because we need to keep targeting those markets more precise and moving those people to Angel Fire. So that's a good offering. Brandon's going to run through. You've got a new event schedule that's been put all in front of you. That's built out a little further. You see the aviation week after the balloons event. You'll see the Fabulous Thunderbirds, the Brews Festival after the drone event. So we're trying to fill in those times. The best way to grow occupancy is around the times people visit. The best way to grow midweek business is to expand your weekends. The best way to grow shoulder season, and I know we talk a lot about growing the shoulder seasons, is from our existing season, expanding our summer, making our summer start at Memorial Day and take it all the way to Labor Day. Don't let it wind down at the beginning of August, and then grow those shoulder seasons out. So that's our that's our tact, so to speak. We're not just gonna go invest money in late April and think we're gonna grow the market around late April. We know we have to grow summer forward, winter longer, and that's how we'll fill in those times. So that's our philosophy on growing the shoulder seasons and reaching those people. Brandon, you got anything you want to highlight on the events?
You pretty much hit everything. The military flying, I've completed all paperwork with the military, so now we're just waiting on approval and for them to tell us who they're gonna send. The cool summer nights, there's 15 cool summer nights, 13 are booked. So things have really come together music wise the last 2 weeks. Pretty much our Memorial Weekend, the 2 nights, we have music for both of those nights done. Cool summer nights, 13 out of 15's done. Farmers Market, I still need a few of those, but that's more than halfway done. Independence Day is coming along great. We've approved the drone show quite a bit a month or 2 ago. The Brews Fest, headlined by the Thunderbirds. We only have one band left to book on that, and we have we're gonna have a DJ between each band. That way there's always some kind of blues, something playing. Should be a fun time. Skate Festival moving along with Oliver. Yeah, that's pretty much the highlights.
Like a fun summer.
Thank you.
I hope so.
We'll go ahead and move on to old business. Item A, advertising performance update. Is that pretty much?
That's, yes. I sort of overlapped again.
We'll move on to item B, Lodgers Tax Board mission statement discussion approval. Do I need to read it or?
Oh, Brett.
Manager?
Mr. Chairman and board members, I just wanted to give you an overall of the numbers that are affecting the village financially in respect to the report that Greg just gave. So I will tell you that through our numbers through December, our revenue was actually down about 4% coming in as of December 31st, year over year. We had really good revenue numbers in January and February that actually now we're basically flat. So our revenue numbers on GRT and other sources are basically flat year over year. We're actually down 45,000, but that's nominal when you consider our revenues are about 7 million. So January and February numbers in GRT have really picked up and caught us up year over year. I will say in lodgers tax, we're slightly ahead of last year in lodgers tax. So right now we've brought in about $650,000 in lodgers tax. Our budget is $1 million. So, and that's only through February. So we still got to count, we're at 650, we still got to count March, April, May, and June to get to our $1 million number. And based on historical, we should easily be able to get $400,000 in those months in lodgers tax. So my estimate is we'll probably be up somewhere between 2% and 5% on lodgers tax revenue year over year.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten in the February dollars yet because they're not due until March 25th.
Right. Now, my numbers are based on when they're paid. So you're right.
Okay.
So I'm talking about receipts, what we've received in revenue, and lodgers tax are paid a month in arrears. So you would have to factor that in. By the way, GRT is paid a month in arrears also.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
A month ago, we were 6% down in lodgers tax, so if you remember.
Mayor Lindsay?
Thank you, guys. So what Greg and Brett, what I'd like to point out, I think is it's an obvious point that hasn't been said, is that this is from unofficial sources, the 4th worst snowfall year in recorded history in Angel Fire. So to be flat normally wouldn't be a great thing. But to be such a low snow year, I think it's a wonderful thing. And to be slightly above, and I have to believe that that has to do with the efforts from the Lodgers Tax Committee and the advertising. And of course, Greg and his staff. So that's what it boils down to as far as, again, we'll get a bigger picture, but I think it's worth noting.
I think that's worth noting, and then even with what we're dealing with snow wise in March, the spring breaks are timing out well.
Yeah.
So it's a split spring break, this week and next week versus the previous year, it was all 1 week. So we were 100%, but we couldn't fit any more tourists in. But this year, even with the snow, I think March will be a good performing month.
And last year it was this week,
Yeah.
not next week, that we have the higher numbers, so we're expecting to finish strong, where last year it really tapered off. Spreading them out a little bit, overall, we hope we will have more than, we did last year, even with the conditions of what they are, which the conditions are great, by the way. I mean, I know Greg and everybody knows this, but the snowmaking at the resort has done an amazing job to have as much open and to maintain it as well as it has. So that has something to do with those people still coming. We get people, they come anyway here, you know, they planned ahead, but a lot of them could drop out, but the word, I don't want to ramble, but the word, when somebody says something on social media about the conditions, I'm thrilled to say that 90% of the comments are all positive, that we've got good snow out there. It's really, conditions are worth coming. Don't cancel or don't not book because you think the conditions are bad. So it is amazing, like BJ said, that we've had one of the worst snow years in history, and still we're holding our own. It's comparing to last year, which was a good year, we're pretty flat, so that's pretty amazing in itself.
Yeah.
Pretty good. We'll go ahead and move back on to item B, adoption of the Lodgers Tax Board mission statement, discussion and approval. I'll just go ahead and read it, the proposed mission statement that was generated by the gentleman on my side. The Lodgers Tax Committee of Angel Fire is dedicated to fostering the sustainable growth of our community by responsibly managing and allocating lodgers tax funds to enhance tourism, promote local businesses, and to improve quality of life for residents and visitors alike. We strive to make Angel Fire a year-round destination by supporting marketing initiatives, events, and infrastructure that showcase the unique culture and beauty of our region. With transparency, collaboration, and accountability at our core, we aim to create a vibrant, welcoming environment that enriches the experience for all who visit Angel Fire. Good job. And then our long-term goals were work to create events that bring in visitors during the traditionally slower times, Memorial Day to late June, mid-August to Labor Day, and in the fall. Create events that will allow larger and reoccurring events, indoor and outdoor, and create a Main Street area in the core of the village. Open that for any discussion, questions?
Owen, this is Nancy. I have one thing. We're considered a board and not a committee, isn't that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, because it said committee in there, but we're a board. I don't know if it makes that much difference, but.
There is a difference, Nancy. The boards are actually appointed by the mayor and council.
Right.
And it's a state requirement that the village has a lodgers tax board.
The difference between a board and a committee is not required by state statute and the board is. EMZ is actually a commission required by the state.
Was there any other changes?
I thought it was written very well.
Very good. I liked it too. I will accept a a motion to accept the mission statement and long-term goals with the amendment of changing the committee to board.
I'll make a motion, we accept as written with this change to committee to board. I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's approved. And then item C is budget discussion.
I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on what we're looking at moving forward for next year. As I based off of flat revenue, so $1 million in lodger's tax revenue coming in would be our baseline for budget. We have 2.4 million in reserves. 2 million of that will go towards the down payment for the event center. So that leaves 400,000 in reserves that I plan on spending next year. So that would take that budget to 1.4 million, maybe 1.5 million if we gather some more lodger's tax money. Looking at that budget, you take out $400,000 for salary and stuff. So now we're at $1 million. We take 300,000 out for our events that we know we want to do. That leaves 700,000 for advertising and all our other expenses. So in other words, this $750,000 ad campaign that we've waged over the last 3 months won't be in the budget for next year. We're going to have to scale that back. But one of our goals with this campaign this year was to reestablish our brand, bring Angel Fire back to front of mind. And that's why we went heavy with digital and billboard and those expensive mediums to get our brand in people's brains in our markets. Now we have to reinforce it with offers, the events, the things we have, and keep inviting them up. And we can do that with lesser money. But what I want to consider, or what I want us to consider as we start looking at proposals from third parties for events or other things we do, we have to look at where those funds are going to come from. Like for example, Mayhem on the Mountains. We know we're going to support Nancy Birch's Mayhem on the Mountains. We've already spent $6,000 on music and entertainment for our barn dance that we're going to be hosting afterwards. And we're probably committed to another $4,000 in other expenses before we even start. We know we want to do the event, but is there really money? And is it our obligation to fund the production of the events? I don't know. I think we're here to fund the promotion of the events. So when we get to expensive events, if they're looking for us to advertise and promote it, I think that's easily done. We can use our existing advertising dollars to do that. When they're looking for production money, we're going to have to look at where are we taking that money from to cover the production of that event. So as we get into these discussions and these proposals, I just want to give you guys a heads up on where I'm sort of coming at with spending and fiscal controls. My boss told me the other day I was more concerned about my budget than most people in this village, but I'd rather be that way and make sure we're not in trouble, so to speak. Yeah, Don?
Do you have a line item budget amount in there yet, or will you, for us to kind of say, okay, kind of have an established number here that we're working with, so, you know, once we get to this number, we know we probably shouldn't approve anything else.
I will have that number. We do our next round of budgeting, and Brandon and I are looking at where do we do our special events budget? What's it really costing? This drone show, 75 grand, this, you know, and how do I develop sponsorships with the resort and others to help offset some of these things? So I will have a number for that, and we will have something, you know, we'll have a bucket that we've set aside that are for these community events like Music Over Angel Fire or whatever else is popping up.
Right.
Because we obviously want to give those we used to call it a bootstrap grant at other commissions I've worked on, where you help those event promoters get up to speed, but you only allow them to apply for that money for 3 years, and by then they better be on their own ability to produce an event. So that's just something I wanted to make the board aware of as we're getting into skip decisions and discussions on expenses.
Thanks.
Right, we will, table item D until the, end of the meeting and move on to new business. Item A, music from Angel Fire grant application. Do we have a representative?
Sure. Yes, sir.
As far as the application is, on here, you see you requesting 10,000 and anybody have any questions? I have the packet in front of us with I reviewed.
They've provided a lot of detail, full budgets, list of shows. They have a lot of information included in their proposal.
How long? How many
Very thorough
years?
job.
Thank you.
How many years is the?
This will be the 42nd year.
42nd.
Yes. You were talking about production costs. The, in the application, some of the, we asked for a little bit of production costs because we couldn't ask for other things.
Right.
We were limited on what we could ask for. So in years to come, do we not ask for production costs?
No, I think we always need to show what you're needing and where you're looking for help and see what we can do to help.
Okay.
Because I have training over there who's always got a connection for other sponsorship
Right.
things. So
Right.
there's other options and easily for us to include the promotion of this and all our summer advertising, right?
Mhm.
That's great.
Yes.
Those are the kind of things we want to promote.
Okay.
It breathes life in this community. It shows more excitement, more things happening,
Mhm.
you know, and so that the inclusion of the promotional part of it is, thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate y'all very much.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that the advertising budget is well in excess of 10,000. Also. We, Nancy, do you have any questions?
No, excuse me. No, it was very thorough. So that was good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And is there a recommendation from the?
I think I know it's one of our signature events, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the shows are not always in Angel Fire, but the majority are. It's a big event for us. I would have no problem in throwing $10,000 worth of advertising support behind the event to try to drive more attendance, to try to drive more overnight stays. Is one of the things we're gonna do on these events. When we're advertising an event, I'm gonna also have a tag on there for lodging. Look for lodging and for example, the Memorial Day weekend, military family weekend. We'll put on there, check with Resort Properties of Angel Fire Resort for special military lodging packages. We do the same thing with this kind of event. Check for Music of Angel Fire lodging packages. Because once again, everything I've got to do is got to bring overnight visitors to put money in the coffers. So that would be the goal there. Try to use those events to sell lodging packages.
I will entertain a motion on the Music from Angel Fire grant application.
Go
Go ahead.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the, music of Angel Fire grant application.
Now, second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's approved.
Owen, was that Justin and Don?
It was.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, and I would like to say too, is that, you know, that event is in between, you know, it fills a gap between the events that we're hosting.
Wow.
That's multiple weekends during the day. And then I'm sure I'm gonna be excited about the motion that we do for it also.
Yeah.
Moving on then to the item that we had moved to the end of the meeting, event facility update.
Ken, come on down. As most of you know, we started this process to build out a temporary event facility to host larger events than we can host at Frontier Park. So we can actually bring in events that bring in overnight visitors. And as that process evolves, it also incorporates how we build out Liberty Square on a permanent basis and what we do there. Ken's firm was involved with the Liberty Square drawings 20 years ago.
Yeah.
15. So he's got a history here. He's been up to planning meetings. We've been working through design concepts. And I'm excited to let him talk now. Go.
Yeah, hello, my name's Ken Romick, I'm with Consensus Planning, I'm a landscape architect. And I've been working with Formative Architecture. We have recently come on board to assist the village of Angel Fire to look at this event center and this overall thought of Liberty Square, which was a concept introduced in 2004. It's gone through various iterations, and you've put in some infrastructure back there. It's prepared and primed for improvements. And I'm here to present, excuse me, 4 different boards with 3 different options, if you will, options. I just want to classify or clarify that these options are not set in stone at all. These are just merely conversational pieces, right? To start the dialogue about how you want it to evolve. Essentially, I think more than ever, I would like to hear just lots of feedback about how that can be improved to best serve the purposes. This space can be best improved to serve the purposes of the village of Angel Fire. So consider them just things to think about. That's what I encourage, and they are not set in stone at all. First off, I'd like to say that our limits of work is associated with what the village owns. And the first, you'll see our vicinity map at the first, and I have some 11 by 17s if you wish to have a little larger thing to look at rather than trying to see this over here. But essentially, the village owns a small portion of the overall study that we're looking at. We're looking at city-owned parcels in and around the existing village center. However, we've expanded some of our study to include some resort properties, including the southernmost parking lot and the pond-like space to the south of North Angel Fire Lake. So we've expanded it slightly. Parking, there's a good analysis by Formative Architecture about parking requirements for each one of these programmatic elements. It's critical to really sort of look at that to see if we can park this facility to serve the program elements you have going on. The most important of which, I think you'll see the event center probably in the Great Lawn, as we're calling the outdoor gathering space, requires about 667 spaces. That's pretty expensive, pretty extensive. And just to build the parking could be an expensive proposition. We are meeting right now. We are meeting our parking requirements for short 82 parking spaces. However, That's taking into account that the resort property currently to the south, that is overflow parking for the resort at this point, stays as a parking facility. It's possible that the resort would choose to develop that into a hotel or any number of other land uses to their advantage. So as this develops, we have to understand and be flexible and find additional parking to make sure that the event space isn't falling short. And we also make the assumption that in the events, during the events, pretty significant events, that we could actually barricade portion of the roadways and provide parallel parking or a variety of other parking opportunities on the roadway. That will take some doing and some operational considerations, but I think it's possible and it would provide this really fantastic experience and sort of create the type of roadway that you'll see in most resort communities, which is a walkable community, right? A walkable roadways, which Angel Fire has struggled with. So that being said, I'll just jump into the three options. Are there any other questions? The first option. As I mentioned, first thing, there's a lot of infrastructure out there already, a lot of water, sewer and sanitary sewer lines, as well as drop inlets for stormwater conveyance. And each one of these options has different implications associated with the infrastructure. The first option is more respectful, I would say, of the infrastructure in general. So it's going to be a little less costly in terms of the infrastructure costs. However, if I could just go into that, the event center is situated with the views to Mount Wheeler primarily, and the Great Lawn sitting right in front of it with a promenade that touches the trail and reaches back into the site. On the west side, there's a dog park, picnic areas and areas for food trucks. The stage is located at the far northwest corner. That's one of the better orientations. You always want your orientation as best as possible, east-west, because otherwise, I'm sorry, north-south, because you really don't want the sunlight in the spectator's eyes or in the band's eyes. So it's north-south orientation is the best orientation. Village Hall is located right across the roadway with an entry plaza and a good amount of parking to serve the Village Hall to the south. The fire station has pretty much been in its situation on that lot, and it's been considered the best orientation for the fire station for some time. So it respects some of the previous planning and some of the architecture that's currently going on. The retail up to the north tries to pull the retail closer to the street.
Is that this?
Yeah. That is sitting on the lot, right? That's considering that this Village Hall is no longer is demolished, frankly. So it takes into account a future condition of how that could be developed. And the Department of Public Safety or your police station would be associated with that right behind. And it's got a strong association. The police station has a strong association with the Village Hall and the fire station. And can act as a good emergency facility and security for events happening at the event center and in the Great Lawn. Farther to the north and northwest, we have a pump track, which is one of the requests we look at. And an improvement, each one of these options shows an improvement to the pond. The pond there could be any number of things programmatically that would be really beneficial, including like a wedding gazebo, which might be beneficial for those persons that have their event at the event center and want to get some really great photos down there over the pond or near the pond. There's a possibility of a sort of a fishing pier, depending if the depth of the pond is sufficient for fishing. Picnic areas and some really great decks for, just observing wildlife and enjoying yourself.
I was, is this just making use of the current wetland the way it is, or is, when you're saying pond, is it like actually making it deeper and into an actual pond? I didn't know if that was possible.
That's still to be determined. That would take some work, obviously, to make this, make it a fishing facility, obviously. But option is out there for us to consider that. Let's see, the Great Lawn is, in option one is not, it's not big enough to, well, let's just say that some of the Great Lawns could serve several purposes. There could be a wellness trail that surrounds the outside. And this Great Lawn could perform the, opportunity for sports events or soccer. The second option, just sort of creates a large arc through the primary center of properties. The Great Lawn is fairly large, in fact, large enough for a football field or a soccer field, and can serve both purposes. The event center is pretty much oriented in the same fashion that it was in option one. This option creates a civic plaza where the Liberty Square was thought to have sat or was originally conceived. The civic plaza, and the thought was that the Great Lawn is for visitors and for your events that happen and people come in, and a lot of people come in, a lot of tourists and that sort of thing come in and enjoy the events that are here. The civic plaza is much more oriented to the creation of the Angel Fire community and associated with the events that you may host, such as luminarias during Christmas, such as the Christmas tree, the village Christmas tree, or any number of holiday celebrations, Easter egg hunts that are more associated with the development of the village's community. And so we've sort of carved out that space. And I hope I think it could possibly serve that purpose. Otherwise, the village hall is located similarly with an entry plaza as well, and Department of Safety very closely allied with the village hall and the fire station. The pond obviously has same sort of options that we've talked about. Finally, the third option is an option that creates these very strong axial relationships to the south and to the west, and creates a bowl-like situation for the stage pavilion. It has this fantastic promenade or plaza patio associated with the village center, village hall, and the event center, creating this space for food truck parking. It has a very strong design, and the association with the restrooms and the group shade structure, that's an exceptionally strong relationship to the north, as well as with the picnic shelters to the north as well, and the pump track. So there is it provides a great opportunity for the pavilion and performances. Everything is arrayed about the sloped lawn, including the police station and the fire station, and it all has a relationship associated with that strong shape, that strong form.
Is that stepping down
Yes,
to the stage?
I think it's intended to step down, yes. So there would be a bowl-like situation, all facing the pavilion. I don't mean to speak for Stephen Teeters, he's on the line, he's the architect of, and the primary designer of this option. Stephen, would you like to speak to, this option? Oh, you may not.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I think there's a couple different arrangements or configurations for that sloped lawn. We just wanted to present that as one option. Of course, we could configure that as a flat surface if that's more conducive for multi-purpose activities throughout the year. So as Ken said kind of in the beginning, these are just initial ideas, concepts to kind of throw out to the community and get some reaction and get some idea generation going on.
Steven, this is Greg, Ralph. Any idea what the seating capacity would be on option 3 around that stage area?
Yes, sir. So the intent would be, as Ken described, to have a north-south relationship where the pavilion is at the north and the audience is to the south, meaning only about a third of that great lawn would really be required for your seating capacity. And so if you look at about the southern portion, about a third of that sloped lawn, it's about 26,000 square feet. And so depending on how densely people sit, you could easily fit 1,000. You could even go upwards of 2,500 just on that third portion that's south of. So that would be the portion of lawn in between the event center and the pavilion. That could easily sit, like I said, 1,000 to 2,500.
Would the grade be on that? Well, that'd be it. We'd have to figure that one out, I think. The grades, definitely, we don't want to hit, water table is gonna be high down there, so we have to be very careful about what type of depth. We're gonna have to do some grading, probably lift this portion of the site high where the village hall and the event center sit. And to create the grades we want in that slope lawn. I don't mean to speak for Stephen, but that's my,
But it doesn't even have to be sloped.
No. it doesn't have to be said. We have a slight grade in that direction as it is.
Anyway,
Right, anyway, so there would be some slope that we could very easily get. And we wouldn't want to get it over 5%, just to keep everything accessible.
Is it possible to slope the others?
Yes.
The other 2 options as well?
It certainly is, yes.
Slap.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk this through with you. I mean, perhaps we could have some time just to draw on top of these options and talk it through, see how we can improve these options and make them better for y'all.
so number 3 would definitely have to include, I mean, just on that on-site, I mean, that's definitely resort land that they're showing like restaurant and coffee and.
Yes, there are some proposed land use changes to that.
Okay, yeah.
True, yes, sir.
One of the things I wanted to do today while we're all here is actually go on a little field trip and walk out there. You'll see where Kurt's done a lot of the grading and brought in some dirt to level out the spot for our temporary facility. But then I think that'll allow us to get a better picture of what we're looking at here and see it in a real environment. So at some point I want to do that as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
We're also using the parking area. The village hall parking is counted as parking to use for events too, right?
I imagine, yes, all the parking would be multi-use and shared. Yes, sir.
But that's in the count
Yes.
of what you mentioned earlier.
I will say number 3 looks really cool.
It does. I think it just kind of limits that
space.
space also. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope
Good
we have-
proposals. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ellen, if I may.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, so as far as like the resort land across the street and the wetlands and so forth. The reason that I asked them I don't want them focusing on that, but to have that in mind for future is the large parking lot is currently owned by the resort. That lot 1, and to make our plans work, we feel like we would like to keep it a parking lot. And to discourage them from developing that, we want to encourage them to develop across the street. They own the vast majority of that land. And we would want to be able to access it. I also feel like that is the best opportunity that Angel Fire has, back to your mission statement, for a walking downtown. As you can tell, there's a lot of development and activity already going on around the bank and more townhomes, condos, that sort of thing popping up there. with this kind of growth, I'd like to see, you know, promote the opportunity for people to put in retail and restaurants around that other trail, develop that into our walking downtown around some kind of water feature, whether that's a pond, cleaned up wetland, whatever that we can do to make it more attractive, but long-term P and Z style thinking, I think they work hand in hand to have our civic center on one side and also have access to private development on the other. So that's the reason for bringing that portion into the discussion, because I think they do ultimately work together and will also help with our negotiations with the resort on either purchasing, leasing, or deed restricting lot one to keep it parking.
There, anything else about the event facility?
The event center in each one of these is the same size, isn't it?
Yes.
A question on if we go to option one, Ken,
Yes.
and you look at or option two, doesn't matter, you look at the event center and the Great Lawn. For our temporary facility, would we put that on the, say, the south end of the Great Lawn in that spot? Have the Great Lawn to the north of it and the stage to the north of it, and then when we open the event center, peel off that tent, expand the lawn? Is that the plan?
That's how I envision it. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Is that where we're, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Is that where that's not the same place that Kurt's working on right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
At 6th and 7th?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there a way to put the temporary somewhere where we could be building the actual center without having to take it down?
Yeah, on the Great Lawn, on the
Okay.
south end of the
Okay,
Great
perfect.
Lawn.
Yeah.
Is how it, and when we go out there and you see how big the area is that Kurt's graded, there's a lot of space.
Puts it in perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of space.
It's a lot of space.
It can accommodate all this.
And that tent could still, if we had this great lawn, we're gonna have an event out there, we could still put the tent up on the great lawn.
Yeah,
And that way we, you know, cause that would be, and then the event center would kind of open up towards the great lawn so that it could still be.
That's correct.
yeah, they roll up doors with the patio and build right
I
out.
could see a beer garden spilling out there, you know, and really, you know, providing some secure space for the beer garden to be secured from minors, that sort of thing.
Right, and then have a place where people could go to if it was, the weather wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Yes.
These are great proposals.
Any other comments from anybody?
I mean, I'm assuming y'all would make sure, I see toilets in a couple places, that there'd be enough to cover the event amounts, and those would be permanent facilities.
I think they would be permanent, yes, sir, and we wouldn't want the event center to be burdened with all of the restroom requirements for an event. There might have to be, in certain circumstances, depending on the event and the size you expect, some porta potties. I don't expect building restrooms to provide capacity for all the visitors.
Yeah, and we're hopefully we get to the point where we've got a wedding going on, generating revenue in that event center, and then we've got something else going out on the lawn, entertaining the village. And they can coexist as two different events happening at once at the same facility.
And then there has been a lot of talk about the event center going to 2 stories as well. I'll just put that out there.
With rooftop.
With a rooftop with a deck that looks out onto, which would be extraordinary. There are some implications with that associated with accessibility. Just to let you know, we have to provide an elevator and a variety of other things to just make sure that's accessible. Just to let you know. So
Yeah.
kind of costly, that's all.
Yeah.
But it's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic idea.
We're sort of under a challenge to do it right.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
So that event center, space could shrink considerably.
If it went 2 stories.
Yes,
Okay.
Is the goal
Just above this retail and this parking, or those existing buildings,
Yes, sir.
Gas
That's,
station.
yeah, that's the gas station, the convenience store.
That retail
That's
is,
that little strips retail there in the gas station.
that retail is this big. Village Hall right now. So that's Rockies.
Okay.
All right, you wanna go see the dirt?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Call this meeting closed.